This is Big Podcast.
It's Build a Big Podcast, the marketing podcast for podcasters. I'm David Hooper, coming to you from Nashville. Big Podcast, world headquarters. Bigpodcast.com is the website. Why the Big Podcast? Because that's what you want. You want to grow a podcast. You want to have people listen to it. You want to have people connect with your message. You want to make money from that message, from those people, or somehow. There are a million ways to do it. Those are the kind of things that we talk about. I've got a newsletter. It is called Big Podcast Insider. It comes out every Friday. If you're not familiar with it and you're interested, bigpodcast.com is where to get it. I'm going to go through the latest edition and give you some audio commentary. So you're going to get it twice, but it's a little bit different. Again, this is a written newsletter, very old school and different for a lot of podcasters, but I've made it very easy for you to go through. Take you maybe, 2 or 3 minutes to go through it. Every week, you're going to get caught up on the latest marketing techniques, ways to grow your podcast. Go to bigpodcast.com if you're interested. Your podcast success formula. That's the first entry for this issue. This week is Valentine's Day week. I've got a funny graphic that I've linked to. All the links that I'm talking about, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. But here's what I'm not kidding about. This is no joke. People like Valentine's Day because it's an opportunity to be appreciated. And as a podcaster, that is something that you need to be doing for listeners with every episode that you do. Make your listeners feel something. That's it. Now, you can make listeners feel a lot of things. Sometimes listeners will listen to you and they'll feel angry. That's okay. You're making them feel something. You're getting a reaction. What you don't want is that, I don't care. I could take it or leave it. And most of the times they're going to leave it because there's other options, obviously, with podcasts that are just a click away. These people can get whatever they want. You want it to be you. So what can we make people feel? Love, value, appreciation. But the number one thing, if you focus on this, you will grow your podcast. And that is making listeners feel understood, letting them know that you get them. It's not just for Valentine's Day. It's not just for one episode. It is for every day, every single episode. Say what you will about Trump, Rogan, Oprah, AOC, Tucker, Delilah, all these broadcasters, because that's what they are. Don't let them fool you. Every single one of these guys does two things. One, they fly a flag. And the second thing is they make people who watch or listen to them feel understood. If you do this, you're going to have a similar type of success. So consider that on your next episode. Write that at the very top of your episode notes. Am I making my listeners feel like I understand them, like I get them? Add those elements into your episode and continue to add those elements into your episodes. You will get the results you want as far as growing your audience, getting connected to your audience, making money, spreading your message. Everything hinges on this, making your listeners feel understood. Next item, 15 marketing trends to try in 2022. This is according to 70 marketers. They surveyed 70 marketers. They asked them, what should I try this year, 2022, as far as marketing? This is very interesting. And it's hard to say which one of these things will actually happen or not happen. But one thing I absolutely agree with that's mentioned here is that if you don't experiment, you will stagnate in 2022. That's your choice. Do you want to experiment or do you want to stagnate? That advice never changes. 2021, 2023, every year, it's the same thing. Every episode, it's the same thing. If you are not experimenting and moving forward, you are standing still, stagnating, you are losing your audience. We are like cigarette companies. If we don't go out and get new listeners to listen to us, we are losing our overall listenership because the current listeners that we have, they're doing just what I said a minute ago. They're clicking on another podcast. They're growing old. They're dying. They're getting bored of us. We are losing listeners with every single episode that we have, unless we continue to get in new listeners, because the world is always changing. People are changing. People try new things. They become too busy. If we go back to what I said at the very beginning of this episode about making your listeners feel understood, you can keep more of those listeners with you, and more of them will be the hardcore listeners that stick with you for years and years and years if you go that long. But you've still got to do this. You've got to experiment or else you're going to stagnate. 15 marketing trends to try in 2022, all of them linked at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. Got an event coming up. It is the Interview Mastery Summit. It's not my event. That came out wrong. But this is done by some people that you know. Steve Stewart from Podcast Editors Club. He is one of those people. Whether you want to be a better host or you want to be a better guest, this event has something for you. Again, the name of it, Interview Mastery Summit. Here are some of the things that you will learn. You will learn how to get your guest excited about speaking to you. I've done a lot of interviews, hundreds of interviews. Sometimes they're done via publicist. A lot of times they are. Guest doesn't know me from the next guy. It's like, oh, got to go do this thing. This podcast. You're going to learn how to work around that. Getting your guest excited about talking to you. So when you do get that connection, you do get on the line with that guest, if you're doing a remote interview or in the studio, if you're doing an in-person interview, that guest is going to be excited. It's going to show up prepared and going to be ready to deliver on the content that makes your audience feel what? Understood. Why a coffee chat is the first step to a great interview and when this is appropriate. It's interesting to me that they use this language in their copy. This is known as a pre-interview. And in my book, Big Podcast, I referred to it as just getting coffee. It's not like a full date or full interview. It's just you connecting with a guest beforehand, letting the guest know what to expect, maybe getting a few bullet points. Hey, what's interesting about you? What do you want to talk about? What do you think would be good for this episode? Because I'm here to work with you. And my job, like your attorney when you're on the witness stand, is to present your case to the court. Not to say as a podcaster that you're not going to ask some tough questions, but in general, you're wanting to make your guests look good, be understood. You're not in a gotcha situation. You're working with your guest to provide great content to your audience. At least that's how it is for the majority of podcasters. Next thing you're going to learn, techniques to improve guest audio. That's tough. We can't get in the studio like we used to. I haven't been in a studio with another guest for 2 years. 2 years. So all of my guests are becoming audio engineers. How do you get a great sound from them? It's not as easy as when I had an engineer, and if something was wrong, we'd switch out the mic, put the mic right in front of the guest's face. You can't do that when you're not there with them. So how do you do it? That's what you're going to learn on the Interview Mastery Summit. Also, how to lay a foundation that allows you to grow a community. Again, we're talking about making listeners feel understood. People want to know that they are not the only ones going through something or dealing with something or excited about something. Community is a big part of that. You're part of that community, but your other listeners are also a part of that community. You want those listeners to get together if they can. If you can help them to do that, your podcast will benefit. That's another thing that you're going to learn. Also, how to get the most out of pre and post-event promotion, meaning pre-episode promotion, post-episode promotion. Exactly how to do that. Tickets start at just $19. It is a virtual event. I've got more information about it at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. Next item. Are you copying other podcasters? Be honest. This guy, I don't know if it's Alex Yull, L-L-U-L-L, or Alex Lull. This is something that if I wasn't just reading something, I had a guest there with me or had somebody with me that knew the guest. Before I mentioned it on the air, I'd say, how do you read your name? So I don't know. Alex Lull, L-L-U-L-L. Your content won't be unique starting out, and that is fine. But don't let the fear of not being original paralyze you. We don't learn to walk on our own. We learn by watching others do it. And with time, you will develop your own voice. This is something that I've seen in all forms of the entertainment business that I have worked in. Music, comedy, writing. Literally, everybody does this. It is how we develop our own styles. And a lot of people, they are nervous about copying people. I used to ask bands all the time, what do you sound like? Who do you sound like? Well, man, we just sound totally original, man. There's nothing like it. And I said, well, do you tune your guitar EAD, GBE? Yeah. Are you playing 4/4 music? Yeah. Well, don't tell me you're sounding totally original then, because that's how most rock and roll and pop music is. We are all learning from somebody else, even if it's just how to tune our guitars, play our guitars, plug in a mic. Your style is the same way. So are you copying other podcasters? Yes. Yes, you are. How to make the most of that? Newsletter.bigpodcast.com. I've got the article linked. This next one, you need to jump on this now. Go to newsletter.bigpodcast.com. The Samson Q2U recording and podcasting pack available for only $49. This is hands down the best low-budget mic for podcasting. Right now, the entire kit, only $49, about $30 off. When I mentioned the interviewing event and how to get good guest audio, this is one of the things that you can do. You can physically mail a mic to your guests, and this is a great one because it's a USB mic. You plug it in your computer, plug and play, no drivers, hold it up to your mouth, you're good to go. $49 for that. They mail it back, you mail it to its next destination. It is the very best option as far as a low-budget by-mail kit for guests who do not have the proper equipment to get you the quality audio that you need for your episode. The shape makes it easy to send. It is not fragile. And it's not the end of the world if you don't get it back. It's only $49. A lot easier to use than some of the more expensive mics. It sounds pretty good. Certainly better than most guests are going to have already around their house. I talk to a lot of guys. Oh, can I use earbuds? No, you can't. Can I use my mobile phone? No, you can't. Can I use the built-in computer mic? No, you can't. You need to use a good mic. If your message is worth going out over a podcast, it's worth speaking into a good mic so people can actually understand what you were saying. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com to get it. Only $49. It's a bargain. You will not regret that purchase. It is a mic that you can grow with you because not only is it USB, it also has an XLR connector. A great mic, $49. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com. How to bring zombie subscribers back to life. As I mentioned, we are losing subscribers with every episode. Sometimes those subscribers are gone. They're out of here. We're never going to see them again. Sometimes those subscribers are still subscribed, so they're technically subscribers, but they never listen to us. It's like those newsletters that you get. Hopefully not mine. You see them coming through and you never open them. What do I do with people like that? Because I can tell when you open the newsletter. I drop you. Because I want people who open my newsletters. And you, as a podcaster, you want people who listen to your podcast, not just subscribe. It's an ego stroke. I know a lot of guys who get in this situation. I'll give you a story. Dude had about 50,000 people on his email list. So we need to clear that email list. We need to find out who's actually emailing it. He said, oh man, then I can't do that. Then it wouldn't be as big. I wouldn't reach as many people. I said, man, you're not reaching that many people now. I looked at the stats. I said, man, you got about 10,000 people opening this thing. You're sending it out to 50,000 people. And that's actually hurting the 10,000 people because when Google sees that 80% of your people are not paying any attention to you and only 20% are, it starts putting you in the promotions folder, putting you in the spam folder. It's not worth it. If you're not reaching them, why send it to them? And the same thing goes to your podcast. But these zombie subscribers, they can be brought back to life. If you want your podcast to be successful, long-term subscribers who listen to your podcast, they are essential. The situation we found ourselves in the last couple of years is that when the pandemic set in, we had a lot of time on our hands. We had more time at home. We didn't know what to do with ourselves. So many people, maybe you, I know I did this. You're looking for podcasts to listen to. You subscribe to podcasts. But then things started picking back up again. We got outside again. We started to get vaccinated. We're wearing masks. We're getting back to work. You're not listening to the podcasts that you subscribed to over the last couple of years. Those are those zombie subscribers. Can you get them back? Yeah, you can get them back. But you've got to be skillful about it. I've got an article that shows you how to do that. It is at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. Everything I'm talking about here, I've got additional commentary and I've got all the links that will come to you every Friday. If you go to bigpodcast.com, you can sign up for that. I would love to have you there. It's one click unsubscribe if it's something that doesn't work for you. No problem. Like I said, I don't want you on the list if you're not reading it, if you're not getting value from it. One click, you'll be unsubscribed. We'll part as friends. But do go and check it out, bigpodcast.com. While you are there, you can subscribe to this podcast. I've got 3 links for you, one for iPhone, one for Android, one with an RSS feed. Pick the one that you want. Subscribe to this podcast. Never miss an episode. I appreciate you. I've got some good stuff coming up. I'm working on a few books that are coming out. One of them, probably in the next couple months. I always hate to put a date on books because when I announce those, it seems that they go on and on and on. And a year or two later, they finally get out. This one, very close. Very close. It's going to the final edit this week. Then it goes to the layout person, the cover person. It's coming quickly. So if you're interested in all of this, bigpodcast.com, sign up for the list. I'll get you the newsletter. You can get the podcast there as well. I'll keep in touch with you. You're going to want to be a part of this. because in this series that I'm getting ready to release, this is the first one, I'm looking for more podcasters to feature. I would love to feature you. I'm looking for more diversity in the podcasts that I mentioned. One of the things that I just did last month was release the second edition of my book, Big Podcast. You might be familiar with that. Bigpodcast.com/book if you are not. I went through all the examples, had to change them up a bit. Podcasting is changing. The world is changing. I'm changing. I wanted more diversity in that podcasting book. I want more diversity in these new podcasting books. So if you want to be one of those diverse podcasters, do reach out, bigpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next episode of Build a Big Podcast.